Pfizer reporting a beat on revenue and earnings for its second quarter, but the pharmaceutical manufacturer is facing new hurdles with tariff threats and calls from President Trump to lower prices. Our own Julie Hyman and senior health reporter Anjali Kamlani spoke with the CEO about cost-cutting efforts and the future of the firm.
I would call it more its productivity enhancement and margin expansion. We do that by implementing three things. One, it is focus. So we stop doing things that they are not that important and we double down on things that they are. The second is technology. Technology right now offers tremendous opportunities for improvement of productivity, particularly AI, and simplification of our business processes. There is a lot of waste that is happening when you have complicated structures that requires usually more people than if you have streamlined your areas. And this is where we are. We have announced a program that we are on track to exceed actually this year. And then we announced an additional 1.7 billion of cost reductions. 1.2 billion of that will until 27 will happen in SI&A, in administrative and marketing and selling expenses. And that will fall to the bottom line. 500 million will happen in R&D, and that will be reinvested all back in R&D.
So it's not just the cost cutting, though. Obviously, investors also want to see growth on the top line, growth in revenues. You guys did have growth in revenues this quarter by 10%. And the revenue growth has been more volatile. So how do you keep that momentum going and also find stability?
Yes. If you see the elements of our revenues, the volatile pieces mainly are COVID, because COVID could happen in different quarters every year. Usually there are two waves every year, and in sometimes like 23, the one wave, the summer or the winter are stronger, and the same is in 24. So, and it's different year by year. So I think that's the variability. The rest of the business, it's a very strong, continuous growth momentum, I think, and new products and recently acquired products contributed $4.7 billion in this first half of the year, and they are growing at 15%. So it's very solid.
I do want to talk about the backdrop from Washington, because that's something that affects not just you, but the whole industry. You're also currently the head of the Pharmaceutical Industry Association. You did say on the call that you have a special relationship with members of this administration. Of course, we've heard the president be critical of the industry. What do you feel you have been able to educate President Trump about to sort of better help him understand the industry's perspective?
Yeah, I said we have a special relation with the president because that relation was cemented during the COVID crisis. He was very concerned and he wanted to make sure that we speed up the development of vaccines. So we speak every second week. So he was very active, and he would ask about studies and where we are and what can we do to accelerate. So it was very, it was a bonding, let's say, exercise. No, I think he's educated. Of course, he doesn't go into the details. It's not his job, but he understands the dynamics. I had multiple times the opportunity to discuss with him the impact that the middleman has in the prices in the US, and he understands this very well, and he speaks very vocally about it. Other things that they are subsidizing, that they are taking out of the prices of pharma so that the patient pays a lot, but then we don't collect all of that because it goes to other areas like 340B. So what he wants to achieve it is to have a better deal. He's very competitive. He doesn't like that others paying less. And he wants to fix it. And we are very productive, productively discussing right now what we can do on that.
And the president did say in an interview today that tariffs could eventually reach 250%. He's talking about a phase-in of that. Are you confident that you'll avoid that outcome for the industry, that 250% on imports of pharmaceuticals?
I don't want to speak for the president, but what he said today, which was very important also, was that it will be a very small tariff in the first couple of years. And then he opened actually the window for a grace period, because I had this discussion with him and I had this discussion with multiple other members of the administration, but a manufacturing site to be completed takes more than 5 years for our industry. In North Carolina, we just completed, not just, but we completed recently, a few years back, the build of one manufacturing site that was one product only, and it took us 4.5 years, and that was our record. So you can't just say you need to do it immediately and pay tariffs until you transfer it. We can't afford to pay tariffs and the investments to transfer.
Right, it makes sense. I want to bring in our Anjali Kamlani, who of course you also know, our senior health reporter, to talk more about some of these issues. So Anj, I know you're also, of course, watching the pricing debate very closely.
Yeah, that most favored nations clause. Albert, I love the letter, got your special name crossed out on there from Trump. But going to the contents of it, I know you've already talked about the DTC push and getting that direct consumer push. You've already unfolded a strategy there, so you're really ahead of the curve there. But I want to actually talk about the pricing part of it, because we've had notes from analysts talking about how it's really unfeasible to do most favored nations pricing the way that it's laid out in that letter. Can you talk to us about how you're planning for that?
We are planning for all different scenarios of different ways of implementing something like that. And we are discussing and making mitigation plans. But we don't know how that will end up. We are still discussing it with the president, how and what will be. The devil could be on the details in this stage.
And talking about the tariffs as well, I know that with the manufacturing push, the industry had been trying to really pull the president away from these tariffs and conversations around it with the more than $200 billion in investments. Explain to us how that works, considering that 90% of prescription drugs are generics, and those are the ones that are cheaper to make, come from overseas, have smaller margins, therefore not really appealing to companies like you to produce. Meanwhile, the branded drugs are mostly produced here with the APIs coming from overseas. So can you just put it together for us on how it would really impact you with tariffs coming in? What components?
Depends on the product and depends how the custom authorities define a country of origin. First of all, you're right that generics are more than 9 prescriptions per 10 in the US. And those are the cheapest medicines anywhere in the world. The generic prices in the US are the cheapest of any medicine. I think, again, patients are paying way more than the real price of the generics because of ways that the insurance system and the benefits work. But even with that, they are the cheapest generics in the world. Then the 10% or less that they branded, many of them are manufactured here. As you know, probably we have 13 sites in the US of manufacturing. 11 are manufacturing plants, and then 2 are gigantic warehouses, almost like a plant. So we do a lot of them here, but over the years, we produced some stuff outside. And Ireland is a typical example, Switzerland is a typical example, other places are typical examples. And those, we need to understand if they will be, the API will dictate the country of origin or where the final product is made.